The galaxy was old. Stars had been born, burned bright, and died long before most civilizations even learned to walk upright. In the vastness of the stars, the Galactic Council stood as the great authority. It was an alliance of the most powerful alien races, who claimed they existed to keep order, protect peace, and stop chaos from spreading across the stars. But there was one memory the Council never liked to discuss, a memory buried in records that were rarely opened. That memory was called humanity. 3,000 years ago, humans had been part of the galactic community. They had first been discovered as a young but ambitious species, expanding quickly beyond their small blue world. At first, they were welcomed. They traded, they learned, and they grew. Yet the Council began to see them differently. Humans did not obey easily. They questioned everything. They fought fiercely when threatened. They created weapons faster than most species could even understand. Worst of all, they dreamed of things the Council considered dangerous: independence, freedom, and the right to make their own rules. After several wars and endless disputes, the Council made a decision. Humanity would not be trusted. Humanity would not be allowed to remain in the center of galactic civilization. Humanity would be cast out. The official record called it a peaceful relocation. But the truth was harsher. The Council's fleets surrounded human space, cut off their supply lines, destroyed their colonies, and forced them into exile. Billions of humans were left on the outer rim, in dying systems far from the main trade routes. They were expected to collapse, to fade away, and to disappear into history. The Council thought the problem was solved. Centuries passed. The galaxy moved on. The Council grew stronger. New species joined the alliance. Young civilizations learned in schools that humans had been wild and unstable, not fit for membership. Few asked questions. Fewer still cared. But legends have a way of surviving. Some traders told stories of ghost ships on the edge of the galaxy. Some spoke of colonies where humans had built strange machines powered by the energy of dying suns. These were dismissed as myths, tales for children, or lies made to scare new recruits. The truth was far stranger. On a world hidden beyond the maps of the Council, a city of steel and light stood under 3 suns. The air was filled with the sound of industry. Machines hammering, engines roaring, factories glowing red as they built weapons and ships. The people who walked the streets looked human, but they were taller, stronger, and their eyes held the hard edge of survivors. For 3,000 years, humanity had not fallen. They had risen. At first, the exiles had suffered. Many worlds failed. Many colonies starved. But instead of breaking, they adapted. Humans learned to survive in places where other species would never last. Frozen planets, burning deserts, asteroid belts with no air. They built shelters, they crafted tools, and they taught their children never to forget. Generation after generation carried the story of the exile. Parents told their children, "The Council betrayed us. The galaxy abandoned us, but one day we will return." It became more than history. It became faith. In one of the great halls of this hidden human world, the High Commander Arik Kalen stood before a council of leaders. He was an old man, his hair silver, his face marked by years of battle. Behind him hung a great banner, a simple star surrounded by chains breaking apart. "Our ancestors were cast out," Arik said, his voice echoing across the chamber. "The Council believed we would die. They believed we were too dangerous, too wild, too free to survive. And yet here we are, stronger than ever." The crowd of leaders nodded. Around the hall sat generals, scientists, and representatives from the hidden human colonies. They were united by one purpose. 3,000 years we waited, Arik continued. 3,000 years we prepared. We hid, we built, we learned. And now? He raised his hand and a hologram of the galaxy lit up above the hall. The center of the galaxy glowed bright with council space. On the edges, faint lights marked human colonies. Slowly, those lights spread, connecting into a vast network. "Now we are ready." Silence filled the hall for a moment. Then voices rose, strong and proud. "Ready for what?" Arik's eyes hardened. His voice was steady but filled with fire. "Ready to return." Far across the stars, within the shining towers of the Galactic Council's capital world, alien leaders discussed new troubles. Reports arrived daily of strange fleets attacking trade routes. Colonies had gone silent. Patrol ships had vanished without a trace. The council chamber was filled with whispers. "It must be pirates," one delegate said. "No, it is rebels," another argued. Perhaps a new species with advanced technology. Finally, one ancient alien, its skin pale and eyes dark with memory, spoke the words that silenced the room. What if it is them? The chamber grew cold. No one had spoken of humans for centuries. They were supposed to be gone. They were supposed to be extinct, yet now, shadows of the past seemed to stir. The supreme speaker of the council dismissed the thought. Impossible. The humans were weak. They were abandoned. They cannot return after so long. But deep down, in the hearts of many council members, a seed of fear was planted. Back in the hidden human colonies, preparations continued. Massive shipyards orbited dying stars, constructing warships larger than anything the council had ever seen. These ships were not decorated with symbols of pride. They were built for one purpose: war. Children trained with simulations of battles. Scientists worked day and night to create weapons that could pierce the strongest alien shields. Farmers grew food not just for survival, but for armies that would march across the stars. Every human knew the same truth. Their time had come. In the darkness of space, fleets began to move. They did not announce themselves. They did not seek trade. They moved silently, shadows against the stars, preparing for the day they would reveal their return. And then, one quiet night, the first signal was sent. It was simple. Only a few words carried on ancient human frequencies that no other species had used in centuries. "We are coming." That signal spread across the galaxy. Traders picked it up. Colonies heard it. Council stations received it. And everywhere fear followed, because the galaxy had forgotten humanity. But humanity had never forgotten the galaxy. 3,000 years of silence were over. The exiles were returning. The galaxy had grown used to peace. For centuries, the Galactic Council ruled without serious challenge. Small conflicts came and went, but nothing ever threatened their power. But then came the signal. "We are coming." The words were short, but they carried a storm with them. In every corner of council space, those 3 words spread like fire. Some dismissed them as a trick. Others thought it was only pirates pretending to be something greater. But a few old voices whispered the name that had been forgotten for ages: humans. In the outer rim, where maps ended and stars grew faint, vast fleets moved in silence. These were not ordinary fleets. They were the Iron Armada. Ships of steel, dark and sharp, glided like shadows through space. They carried no banners, no songs, no symbols of pride. Their design was simple, efficient, and terrifying. Each vessel was built for strength and speed. Each one carried weapons the Council had never seen before. The smallest human frigate was equal to the largest destroyer the Council possessed. Their carriers were like moving cities, and their battleships shone with armor that could withstand entire barrages. But more frightening than the ships was the unity of their crews. Humans did not fight like machines, they fought like hunters. They adapted, they learned, and they struck where the enemy was weakest. For 3,000 years they had prepared. Now their preparations would be revealed. On the command ship Eternal Resolve, High Commander Arik Kalen stood before a massive viewing screen. His eyes studied the stars, but his mind was on the Council. "They thought we were gone," he said quietly. His officers stood behind him listening. "They thought they had buried us. But we endured. Now we will show them the cost of exile." Beside him, Admiral Celine Vera, a woman with sharp eyes and a calm voice, answered, "The fleets are ready. Our scouts report the Council has not yet gathered its strength. We must strike before they understand what is coming." Arik nodded. "Then the first move is ours." A map of the galaxy appeared. Bright dots marked Council trade routes. Red lines traced the paths of freighters carrying food, minerals, and technology. "These were the veins of the Council's power. We cut these veins," Arik said, "and the Council will bleed." The first strike came without warning. In a quiet sector near the Council border, a convoy of 30 freighters drifted peacefully, guarded by 6 escort ships. Their mission was simple: carry supplies to a frontier colony. For centuries, such convoys had traveled safely under the Council's protection. Then the shadows appeared. Human ships dropped from faster-than-light travel with perfect precision. Before the escorts could react, beams of light tore through their shields. Human fighters swarmed like hawks, striking engines and weapons before the enemy could fire. In less than 10 minutes, the convoy was gone. Not a single human ship was destroyed. Survivors sent frantic signals back to the Council. But when the messages were decoded, all they carried was fear. "They are back. The humans are back." The council gathered in panic. In the grand chamber of the council capital, delegates of dozens of species argued. Voices clashed and fear filled the air. This is impossible. Humanity was cast out. They could not survive 3,000 years. These reports are false. They must be pirates. But one elder, a gray-skinned alien named Solvek, shook his head. His voice was heavy with memory. I warned you. The humans would not die. They were too stubborn, too fierce. They endured what no other species could. Now they have returned. The council demanded action. Fleets were mobilized. Patrols doubled. New alliances were called upon. But deep down, the leaders knew something terrible. They were unprepared. They had grown soft in their long peace. Their fleets were powerful, but their strategies had not changed in centuries. They believed order was eternal. Now chaos had come to their doorstep. Meanwhile, the humans moved like a storm. The Iron Armada struck across the border worlds. Colonies fell silent. Shipyards were burned. Trade routes were shattered. And with each victory, the humans sent the same message to the survivors. We are the forgotten. We are the exiled. We are humanity. The council was forced to admit the truth to the public. For the first time in thousands of years, fear spread across its citizens. Schools began teaching the old records again, how the humans had been dangerous, unpredictable, and uncontrollable. The official message was clear. The council had been right to exile them. But the more the truth spread, the more ordinary people began to ask questions. If humans had survived 3,000 years alone, what else had they achieved? On the human side, preparation turned into action. The hidden colonies, long silent, now worked together openly. Dyson spheres glowed around distant suns, powering entire fleets. Orbital factories produced weapons in endless streams. Entire generations who had grown up hearing stories of exile now stood ready to fight for revenge. Yet among the leaders, a debate grew. Admiral Celine Vera spoke carefully to Commander Auric in a private meeting. We have the strength to burn their worlds. But should we? If we destroy them all, we will only replace one tyranny with another. Auric's gaze was hard. Do you forget what they did to us? Do you forget how many billions died in exile? I forget nothing, Selena replied. But if we become only destroyers, then we prove the council was right about us. Her words lingered, but the decision was not yet made. For now, the humans struck with precision. They targeted fleets and military bases, avoiding civilian centers. But the message was still clear. The age of the council's dominance was ending. The first major clash came in the Varus sector. The council gathered a fleet of 200 ships, commanded by Admiral Drexel, one of their most respected leaders. They were determined to crush the human threat quickly. But when they entered the sector, the Iron Armada was waiting. Human ships did not fight like the council expected. They moved unpredictably, striking from angles no one thought possible. They used decoys, false signals, and sudden ambushes. Entire squadrons of council ships vanished under human fire. Admiral Drexel tried to rally his fleet, but his ships were too slow, too rigid. By the end of the battle, half his fleet was destroyed and the rest fled. The humans had lost only a handful of ships. The galaxy watched in shock. The impossible had happened. The council's fleets were being defeated. Across the stars, whispers grew louder. Some alien races, long unhappy under council rule, began to wonder if humanity could be their ally. Others grew terrified, fearing that humans would conquer everything in their path. For the humans, every victory was not just a battle won, it was a message. On the command ship, Auric stood before his officers once more. For 3,000 years, they believed we were gone. For 3,000 years, they lived without fear. But now the galaxy knows the truth. Humanity has returned, and this time we are not asking for a place. We are taking it. The officers saluted, their voices rising as one. For humanity! For the exiled! And in the darkness of space, the Iron Armada spread further, preparing for greater wars to come. The galaxy had lived in peace for too long. That peace was now broken. The storm of humanity had arrived. The galaxy was no longer silent. The whispers of humanity's return had grown into open fear. Entire colonies spoke of ghost fleets that struck in the dark and vanished before help could arrive. Traders carried tales of convoys turned to wreckage in minutes. And everywhere one message echoed through the stars. We are humanity. We have returned. The Galactic Council could no longer deny the truth. Humanity lived, and humanity had grown stronger than anyone could have imagined. Inside the council chamber, chaos ruled. Delegates of dozens of species shouted over one another, their voices sharp with fear. They cannot be allowed to spread. They are destroying our fleets. We must unite against them now. At the center of the room, the Supreme Speaker raised her long silver hands for silence. Her voice was calm, but her eyes were hard. The humans have chosen war, she said. Then war they shall have. We will show them the Council still holds the power of the stars. She turned to Admiral Drexel, who stood stiffly at her side. He had already suffered defeat in the Varus sector, but his loyalty was unquestioned. You will lead our fleets once more, the Speaker commanded. This time you will crush them. Drexel bowed. By the will of the Council I will. Far away in the heart of the Iron Armada, High Commander Arik Kalin studied reports with his officers. The first battles had gone exactly as planned. Human fleets struck and vanished, breaking the Council's confidence. But Arik knew the real war had not yet begun. They will come for us, Arik said. His voice was low, steady. They cannot allow us to continue unchecked. They will gather their full strength and strike. That will be the true test. Admiral Selene Vera nodded. Our scouts already report movement near the Cryon Passage. The Council is gathering fleets there. It may be their staging ground. Arik's eyes narrowed as he studied the map. The Cryon Passage was a narrow corridor of stars, the only safe route between Council space and the human colonies in that region. Whoever controlled it could decide the war in that sector. Then it is here, Arik said, his finger tracing the glowing star systems. Here the first great clash will come. The Cryon Passage was a quiet stretch of space, filled with glowing nebulae and drifting asteroids. For centuries, it had been used as a trade route, but now it was a battlefield waiting to be claimed. The Council sent everything they had, 300 ships, the largest fleet assembled in centuries. Their ships gleamed with silver hulls, their engines burning bright. At the head of the fleet was Admiral Drexel, his mind fixed on revenge for his earlier defeat. Today, Drexel told his captains, we end the human threat. Their arrogance will be their undoing, but waiting in the shadows beyond the nebulae was the Iron Armada. The battle began without warning. Council scouts moved ahead, searching the passage when human warships appeared from the asteroids. They struck fast, their weapons tearing through shields before alarms could even sound. The scouts were destroyed in moments. Engage! Drexel roared. His fleet surged forward, weapons firing. Beams of energy lit the void, tearing across the stars. Then the humans moved. Unlike the Council's rigid formations, human ships danced through the battlefield. They broke into small groups, weaving between larger vessels, striking engines, weapons, and bridges. Their fighters swarmed like angry insects, cutting through defenses with precision. Council captains shouted for order, but their commands were too slow. Every time they adjusted, the humans changed tactics. Admiral Selene Vera led one flank of the Iron Armada. Her voice was calm as she guided her ships. Break their lines. Do not fight where they are strong. Strike where they are blind. Her fleet moved like water, flowing around the Council's heavy cruisers, tearing apart their escorts and leaving the giants helpless. On the other side, Arik commanded the core of the Armada. His flagship, the Eternal Resolve, burned bright as it cut through the Council's center. His voice carried steady confidence. Show them what 3,000 years has forged. Show them humanity's fire. The clash raged for hours. The Council fought with discipline, their formations holding as best as they could. Their ships were strong, their weapons deadly. But their tactics were predictable. Humans adapted. Every time a Council captain thought he had cornered them, the humans changed formation. Every time defenses tightened, the humans struck from a new angle. In the middle of the battle, a Council cruiser attempted a desperate charge against Selene's command ship. Its massive cannons fired, shaking her shields. For a moment, it seemed she might be overwhelmed, but Selene's fleet responded instantly. Dozens of human fighters swarmed the cruiser, striking its engines until the great ship slowed, then tearing open its hull with precise blasts. In minutes, the mighty vessel was nothing but debris drifting among the stars. The humans cheered, their voices echoing across comm channels. For humanity. For the exiled! Admiral Drexel watched in fury as his fleet fell apart. He had believed sheer numbers would overwhelm the humans, but now nearly half his ships were gone and the enemy still fought with terrifying strength. They are only one species, Drexel roared. We are the Council. We will not fall to them. But even as he spoke, reports filled his screen. Engines failing, fleets breaking, morale collapsing. The humans were winning. Desperate, Drexel ordered his flagship forward, trying to strike directly at Orcs' command ship. The two vessels clashed in a storm of fire and steel, exchanging blow after blow. For a moment it seemed the Council might strike a decisive wound. But Orc stood firm. His ship's armor held, his gunners precise. Finally, with a calm command, Orc ordered all batteries to fire at once. The eternal resolve unleashed a storm that tore through Drexel's flagship. The Council ship split apart in a blaze of fire. Admiral Drexel's last words were swallowed by the void. When the smoke cleared, the Cryon passage belonged to humanity. Out of 300 Council ships, less than 100 limped away. The Iron Armada had lost some vessels, but their core remained strong, their morale unshaken. The galaxy trembled at the news. For centuries, no one had defeated a Council fleet of such size. Now a single species, once exiled and forgotten, had done it. In the aftermath, the Council tried to calm its citizens. Official messages claimed the battle was inconclusive and that reinforcements would soon bring victory. But rumors spread faster than lies. Soldiers whispered of human weapons that tore through shields. Traders told stories of fleets that fought like predators. And civilians began to wonder if perhaps the Council was not as invincible as it claimed. Meanwhile, in the hidden halls of the human colonies, the leaders gathered once more. Admiral Selene spoke first. We have shown the galaxy our strength, but strength alone will not win this war. We must decide, are we here for revenge or for justice? Some generals argued for burning Council worlds, for making the galaxy remember the pain of exile. Others, like Selene, urged caution. Orc listened in silence. Finally, he spoke. We cannot erase the past, but we can shape the future. The Council will pay for what it did, yes. But this war will not be only about vengeance. It will be about destiny, humanity's destiny. The leaders fell silent. In that moment, they understood the truth. This was no longer just a war of survival. It was a war to decide the fate of the galaxy. And so the first great clash ended, not with peace, but with fire. The Council bled, and humanity stood stronger than ever. But the war was far from over. The shadows of the past still lingered, and the future promised battles even greater than the Cryon passage. The galaxy now knew the truth. The exiles had returned. And they would not stop until the stars themselves bowed to humanity's will. The Battle of the Cryon passage changed everything. For the first time in centuries, the Galactic Council had suffered a crushing defeat. Entire fleets had been destroyed, one of their greatest admirals lost, and the humans, those long-forgotten exiles, had risen from the edge of history like a storm. The galaxy trembled with uncertainty. In the Council's grand capital, silence filled the chambers where alien delegates once spoke with confidence. Now their voices carried fear. We cannot fight them like this, one delegate said, his scaled hands trembling. Our fleets are not enough, another admitted. If they defeated 300 ships, a third whispered, what hope do we have? The Supreme Speaker listened in silence. Her silver eyes burned with frustration. She would not show weakness. The Council stands united, she declared firmly. We will not allow a single species to destroy the balance of the galaxy. The humans will be stopped, but first we must understand how they survived. She ordered the archives opened. Deep within the Council's hidden vaults, old records were brought to light. Many were dusty and fragile, untouched for thousands of years. Few in the chamber had ever read them. The records told a story of the past, a story of betrayal. They showed how the Council had forced humanity into exile, stripping them of resources and destroying their colonies. They showed the truth. It had not been a peaceful relocation, as schools now taught, but a punishment carried out with war and fire. As the records were read aloud, many younger delegates shifted uncomfortably. They were abandoned to die, one muttered. No species could have survived such cruelty, another said. But the evidence was clear. Humans had survived. And worse, they had remembered. Meanwhile, far from the Council capital, in the hidden human colonies, the leaders of humanity gathered again. High Commander Auric Kalen stood at the center of a great circular chamber. Beside him was Admiral Selena Vera, her expression calm but her eyes sharp with thought. Around them sat the generals, scientists, and representatives of the colonies. Arik spoke first. We have won the passage. We have shown the galaxy our strength. But victory alone is not enough. Now we must decide how this war will end. The generals argued at once. Destroy the Council's core worlds, one cried. Make them suffer as we suffered, another shouted. Let the galaxy see their weakness and bow to us. But Selene raised her voice above them. If we destroy without thought, we prove their fears true. The Council always called us dangerous, violent, uncontrollable. If we burn their worlds, we give them the proof they want. The chamber grew quiet. Many did not like her words, but they could not ignore them. Arik looked at her carefully. Then what do you suggest? Selene stepped forward. We must offer the other species a choice. The Council has ruled through fear and control. Many races already whisper against them. If we show them another path, many will stand with us. Her idea spread like fire. Secretly, human envoys began reaching out to smaller alien races. These were species long ignored by the Council, forced to pay taxes and obey laws but given no real voice. For centuries, they had been silent. Now they listened. The humans promised freedom. They promised protection. They promised a galaxy no longer ruled by the arrogance of the Council, and slowly some alien races began to turn. The Council saw this and panicked. More records were searched, more truths uncovered. And what they found only made their fear grow. Humanity had not only survived, they had thrived. Reports from spies told of vast structures around dying stars. Some claimed humans had built Dyson spheres, capturing the energy of entire suns. Others spoke of hidden colonies numbering in the billions. And still more described weapons that defied understanding. Beams that pierced any shield. Armor that could bend energy. Ships that moved like shadows through space. The Council realized the truth. Humanity was no longer a small threat. They were a civilization that had grown beyond anything the Council had prepared for. In the shadows of a quiet chamber, 3 old Council members spoke in hushed voices. We were wrong to exile them, one admitted. We should have destroyed them completely, another hissed. And now? The third asked. The first one's eyes were cold. Now we face the price of our mistake. Back in human space, Arik stood before a massive window in his flagship, watching the stars. He thought of the billions who had died in exile, of the children born in hunger, of the countless worlds that had been lost. He had carried those memories his entire life. Selene approached him quietly. You are thinking of the past. I am, Arik admitted. For 3,000 years we have dreamed of this moment. But I wonder, if we destroy the Council completely, what future will we create? Selene's voice was steady. We must be more than vengeance. We must be the beginning of something new. Arik turned, his expression hard but thoughtful. Then we must fight not just to win, but to change the galaxy itself. The next phase of the war began. Human fleets moved deeper into Council territory, but this time they did not attack blindly. They struck at military outposts and shipyards, but they spared civilian colonies, and with each victory they broadcast messages across the stars. We are humanity. We do not come to conquer. We come to free. These messages spread faster than Council propaganda. Ordinary people began to wonder if the humans were not monsters but liberators. For the first time, cracks appeared in the unity of the Council. Some member species demanded peace talks. Others demanded harsher measures. Division spread like poison through their ranks, but shadows lingered. Not all humans agreed with the new path. Among the Iron Armada were those who wanted only revenge. They whispered in secret, angry at Selene's caution, frustrated with Arik's restraint. To them, nothing short of total destruction would repay the exile. And in the Council, darker plans were forming as well. Leaders spoke of hidden weapons, old technologies buried away because they were too dangerous. Desperate times, they argued, required desperate measures. The galaxy stood at the edge of a storm. One night, in the silence of space, a signal arrived at Arik's command ship. It came from a Council world, but it was not a threat. It was a plea. The voice of a young alien spoke. High Commander, we are not your enemies. We never chose the exile. The Council forced us to. If you fight for freedom, then help us. We will stand with humanity. Arik listened, his heart heavy. The choice was clear. The war was no longer just humans against the Council. It was becoming something larger. It was a battle for the soul of the galaxy. And so in the shadows of the past, new alliances were born. The exiles who had once been forgotten were now at the center of history. The council, once unshakable, trembled with fear. Its enemies grew not only outside but within, and humanity, standing on the edge of vengeance and destiny, prepared for the final judgment. The greatest battle of all was yet to come. The galaxy held its breath. After 3,000 years of exile, preparation, and silent growth, humanity stood at the edge of the Galactic Council's capital system. The Iron Armada stretched across space like a wall of steel and light, ready to bring the Council to its knees. Inside the Council capital, alarms rang endlessly. Ships scrambled to defend the planet, shields flared with energy, and fleets tried desperately to form lines of battle. But the fear in the hearts of the Council leaders was deeper than any weapon could strike. Humanity had returned, and they were unstoppable. High Commander Arik Kalen stood on the bridge of the Eternal Resolve, overlooking the massive fleet under his command. Every ship, every fighter, every weapon had been built for this moment. Yet Arik's mind was not filled with thoughts of destruction alone. "We fight not just for revenge," he said quietly to Admiral Celine Vera, who stood at his side. "We fight to ensure the galaxy never forgets the truth." Celine nodded. "And yet we must show them mercy. If we destroy everything, we become the very thing the Council feared." Arik's eyes glimmered with determination. "Then our task is clear. Strike with precision. Show strength. But give them choice." The Council, meanwhile, scrambled its defenses. The Supreme Speaker had gathered the largest fleet in history, over 500 ships, and ordered them to block the Iron Armada from entering the capital system. They set mines, activated planetary shields, and prepared every weapon they could muster. Admiral Drexel's replacement, Admiral Korath, addressed the assembled commanders. His voice was stern, carrying the authority of the Council. "We cannot allow humanity to reach the capital. If they succeed, the Council will fall. Fight with everything you have. For the Council. For order! For the galaxy!" The fleet surged forward, energy flares lighting the darkness of space. The first engagement came in the outer system, near the asteroid fields that orbited a dying star. Human scouts had already mapped every approach, every weakness, and every blind spot. Council ships fired first, their beams burning through asteroid belts, trying to scatter the human formations. But the Iron Armada moved with perfect coordination. They split into swarms, ducking behind debris, striking in angles no Council captain had considered. Human fighters dove like predators, disabling weapons, engines, and shields. The Council responded with concentrated fire, but their formation was too rigid. Slowly, methodically, the humans dismantled the fleet. By the time the smoke cleared, less than half of the Council ships had survived. Humanity's losses were minimal, and the morale of their crews soared. In the chaos of the battle, Arik transmitted a message to the Supreme Speaker. "We have returned. The galaxy will remember what was done to us. You may surrender and reform, or you may be destroyed. The choice is yours." The message echoed across the capital system, reaching every fleet and planetary station. Inside the Council chamber, delegates read the words in disbelief. Some laughed, thinking it was a bluff. Others froze, their minds unable to comprehend the scale of the human threat. The Supreme Speaker's voice trembled slightly as she spoke. "They speak the truth. Humanity has not only survived, they have mastered war, science, and unity. And now, they demand judgment." As the Iron Armada moved closer, the Council realized that conventional defenses would not hold. Ancient weapons long stored in vaults were activated. Massive orbital cannons powered by supernova cores glowed like molten suns. Shields pulsed across planets like armor of light. Yet even these preparations could not stop the humans. Arik's fleet moved in perfect coordination. Every ship knew its role, every weapon fired in synchronization. The Council's cannons were overwhelmed by beams of energy that bent shields, while human fighters disabled key systems with precision strikes. For the first time in history, the Council faced true defeat not just by force but by strategy, unity, and intelligence, qualities they had underestimated in humanity. On the planetary surface, citizens watched the sky as alien fleets clashed. Many had never seen humans before. Some whispered fearfully of the exiles. Others wondered in quiet awe if perhaps this was not destruction, but justice being delivered. The Supreme Speaker gathered her top advisors. "We must act now," she said. "If we do not surrender, humanity will destroy us." Yet even as she spoke, she hesitated. Some species under the Council's rule had already begun sending messages secretly to the human commanders. Many were ready to join the exiles, tired of oppression and eager for freedom. The Council was losing the support of its own allies. Auric, sensing the turning tide, prepared the final maneuver. "Position the fleet," he commanded. "We will surround the capital system. This is the last chance for the Council to choose." Human ships moved like shadows, cutting off every escape route. The Iron Armada formed a perfect circle around the system. Within it, Council ships could move, but there was no room for retreat. The choice was clear: surrender or face total destruction. Auric transmitted the final message. "Supreme Speaker, the Iron Armada surrounds your system. Your fleets are defeated, your defenses penetrated, your people have seen your weakness. Surrender and the Council will live to reform and guide the galaxy with justice. Resist and your civilization will end. The choice is yours." The Supreme Speaker sat in silence. Her advisors whispered urgently. Some urged surrender, others, clinging to pride, insisted on fighting. Finally, after what seemed like hours, she spoke. Her voice was firm but weary. "We surrender. Humanity has earned the right to judge us. We will accept our fate and work to repair the mistakes of the past." A silence followed. Then Auric's voice rang across communications channels. "Let the galaxy remember today. Humanity does not destroy without cause. We judge, we act, and we protect. Let this be the dawn of a new era." The surrender was complete. Council ships lowered weapons, planetary shields powered down, and humans entered the system to oversee the peace. There was no massacre, no vengeance beyond what was necessary to prove strength. The message was clear. Humanity had returned to claim justice, not blind destruction. All across the galaxy, aliens who had once feared humanity now began to hope. Humanity's example showed that even the exiled, the oppressed, and the forgotten could rise to greatness. The humans had endured 3,000 years of hardship, yet they had returned with honor, wisdom, and power. In the command halls of the Eternal Resolve, Auric Kalen addressed his officers and leaders of humanity. 3,000 years ago we were cast out. Billions died. Worlds were lost. Yet we survived. Today we have returned not as conquerors but as guardians. Let the Council remember that the galaxy belongs to all who are willing to defend it, not just those who claim it for themselves. Admiral Selena Vera stepped forward. "We have shown strength. We have given justice, and we have set an example for the stars. Let the galaxy learn from us." The leaders of humanity raised their hands in unity. For humanity, for justice, for the future. Across the Council's capital, reconstruction began immediately. Systems were freed from oppressive control. Young species gained their voices. Reforms were introduced that no one could have imagined before. Humanity had not only defeated the Council, they had reshaped the rules of the galaxy, and somewhere in the dark expanse of space, hidden colonies watched quietly, knowing that the next chapters of history would be written by a civilization that refused to be forgotten. The exiles had returned, the galaxy had trembled, and now for the first time in 3,000 years, humanity stood at the center of its destiny, not seeking vengeance alone, but guiding the galaxy toward justice, freedom, and hope. The stars themselves seemed to shine brighter that day, as if the universe itself had recognized the rise of humanity once more. 3,000 years of exile had ended. Humanity had returned, and nothing would ever be the same again.